I recently watched a video about Jeff Bezos, and he was asked, how do you plan out your day and what are some things you do to be successful? And he said literally that as an executive, you're not hired to make many decisions. You're hired to make the least amount of decisions that have the most impact. So he said that to be successful every day, if he just makes 3 good decisions, it's considered success. Now, mind you, this is Jeff Bezos, the most wealthiest man in the world, worth $200 billion, created Amazon, but also bought Washington Post and bought Whole Foods and created Blue Origin. But he literally is the most successful entrepreneur in the world. And he said, you really have to do 3 decisions right each day. If you want to be a speaker or coach, whether you're just starting your career, whether you've built your career, but you haven't scaled past the $10,000, $20,000 mark, or whether you want to be a speaker, but more you want to be a coach and you speaking as a platform to get more coaching clients, regardless of what it is, the 3 most important questions you need as a speaker or coach are, do they believe you, meaning your prospective client? Can they pay you? Are they actually a viable client with the budget? And lastly, can you convince them to pay you? So I'm going to break down, I'm literally going to give you a sneak peek where I'm going to show you an actual slide from my program called GPS, where it's based on 20 years of experience, codified into 5 modules. I'll say it again, 20 years of experience down to 5 modules. This is in module 4, where I talk about sales. So whether you want to make money, make a difference, or have the best life in terms of that hybrid, it really comes down to these 3 things. So again, do they believe you? How was I able to create a persona, a bio, and market myself so that I'm so believable that I'm literally sharing the stage at a conference where President Clinton has spoken at, or the US Secretary of Defense has spoken at, or Max Levchin, who is the founder or co-founder of PayPal. He's a billionaire. He worked with Elon Musk, or Ariana Huffington, who created Huffington Post, or Vicente Fox, who's the former president of Mexico. So imagine you are there. How do you actually get to be at that conference in terms of being believable? So the first part is, again, the first most important decision is, are you believable? That goes back to your marketing. The second one is, can they pay you? That goes back to networking, where you have to build a network, where this is a book I wrote called Big Game Hunting, Networking with Billionaires, Executive Celebrities. So that comes down to when you start going to conferences at the higher level side, where you have presidents and heads of states and billionaires, that's where you're gonna get clients to pay you what you're deserving of your services. Next is the world of corporate speaking is one thing about convincing them. The second part of this program is, well, how do you speak at a stage called Speak to Sell, which is more the self-help personal development aspect, where it's a very different type of persuasion, but it's still about how do you persuade someone to pay you $50,000 if the person that's hiring you doesn't have the budget to pay you for a keynote speaking fee, but they might have the budget to hire you in terms of your travel expenses. And ultimately, it's about understanding who's in that room that can hire you, in this case, as a private coach. And lastly, online, there's a different way to persuade and to sell and to convince people to build rapport online. And this is an example of how I have been speaking for 20 years. 4 years ago, I created this GPS program where we're now in 100+ cities, 29 countries in 5 continents, or actually 6 continents. And I remember flying to Barcelona a few years ago, and I literally landed at 6 o'clock in the morning. This is literally in the morning. You can see the timestamp. And I'm not that awake right now, but a woman approaches me. I get approached a lot more in the US, where I currently speak, but I now travel around the world. But she's like, Christopher Kai. I'm like, hi. He's like, it's Elaine. I'm in your GPS program. And it never dawned on me that my program would reach the world, would reach 29 countries, but here we are only a few years back and a few years later. So my point is this: when you sign up for our GPS program, I help you make the 3 most important decisions you need to make, which is, how do you answer these 3 simple questions, which is, again, do they believe you? Can they pay you? And can you convince them to pay you? The believability part comes down to, do you have the substance, your credibility? Do you speak well in terms of your tonality and your body language? And do you actually have the style? There is a level of style where you have to look the part. So that's important. And then the network, as I said to you, I wrote a book called Big Game Hunting, a #1 bestseller on how to network with billionaires and executives, because that was really the turning point for me. Though I've been speaking for 20 years, the first 14 years, I figured out how to go from $50 to $5,000. But when I really started getting past the $10,000 mark was when I built my network on a global scale, where I was meeting and sharing the stage with presidents and billionaires and whatnot. And so I framed this check to remind myself, When you get paid at this level, they pay you 15% non-refundable upfront, because when you book that day, you can't book out other days. And when you get to the event, they pay you the other part. My point is, it's never been more possible and feasible to create programs online or be a speaker. Even during this time of COVID, it doesn't matter where you are. In the last few months alone, we've brought in 50 plus new members, and we have 50 plus success stories where their clients are booking speeches in Malaysia, where their clients are booking speeches in Morocco. I just had a client that recently said that he booked the speech next year. For myself, I'm billed at $20,000. I'm still getting asked to book speeches at $10,000 or $700, which is lower than my normal price points, but it's still money. And again, we are at a point where you only have Q4 left. And so what are you going to do during this time to really build your foundation for next year? Because ultimately, there's so much work that's required to be a speaker. And it comes down to those three questions. As Jeff Bezos says, executives are hired not to do a lot of decisions. It's not about working hard, it's about working smart. If you are a speaker or coach, whether you're just starting or you've already started, but you can't break that $10,000 mark, you're not making 6 or 7 figures yet, you're not living the life of your dreams, then it really comes down to those three questions where if you're not believable, if you can't understand how to vet if they're a client and having a network of people to hire you, and if you can't convince them, which is about persuasion and psychology, this is a photo of where I convinced Elon Musk, one of the hardest people in the world to get to. It wasn't just a photo op. I convinced him to come to the worst part of town to share his story with kids that are homeless that I mentor at a shelter in LA. It's the largest shelter of its kind in the world. I created a homeless youth program there 10 years ago. The point is, whether I'm persuading people to join my nonprofit work like Elon Musk, or I'm convincing clients to hire me as a speaker, it's all about how do you understand ethically with integrity to serve people. It always comes down to how are you serving your people in a way that they believe in you. And ultimately, when you join our program, you will learn what I took 20 years to figure out in just 5 simple modules, a step-by-step system. So make sure you sign up today. And the bonus is you'll be a part of our group coaching calls where the program itself is already $9,000 worth of value when you include the bonuses. You get another group coaching calls, which is a $10,000 value where I am normally traveling the world. Right now I'm homebound, but you have me for the group coaching. We have our Facebook group where you're part of a year, and then the self-guided program, it's forever. So make sure you join up now, because this is the once in a lifetime opportunity to really join in and build our community from the ground up, so you can really start sharing your story, making a living, but most importantly, making a difference. As I always say, your story is a gift to the world, but I help you understand how to turn your story into a successful speaking and online coaching business. Click on the link, join us, and I look forward to helping, serving, and supporting you in your dreams.